there, ye matey.
What is
Where
that?
does the Bitcoin flow freely, I ask you?
Is that Irish?
I don't know what
Is
it is.
that
It's like an Irish pirate,
Irish
maybe?
pirate.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin flows freely on
Arrgh.
Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, despite whatever Jonathan's doing. That's where the Bitcoin flows freely.
Yeah.
That's where we play, Nitrogen Sports Poker Room. Use the link in the description of this video when you sign up to play with us on Nitrogen.
Also, lightning fast withdrawals and deposits, like 5 to 20 minutes. Get in there and get you some poker.
The year is 2005 or 2006 or something, and
2005.
for some reason the video is really grainy and bad because that's something about the era. I'm not really sure.
Oh.
It's something about the era. But Phil Ivey and Alan Cunningham are playing. Alan Cunningham coming off 2005 World Series of Poker Player of the Year award. Phil Ivey being Phil Ivey. That's pretty cool. This is the Full Tilt $1 Million cash game. Let's do it.
Phil Ivey got the Phil Ivey of the Year award back
Yeah.
in 2005, so that was pretty good as well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we're playing really, really deep. What did that blinds? 300, 600?
Yep.
I mean,
with a $100 ante.
it's not small. And by the way, Mike the Mouth Mattisau's in this hand too, so check that out, players.
Yeah, that's really cool, I guess, for some reason. This hand was suggested by Ham92, which I believe is Alan Cunningham.
Yeah.
You see? I mean, obviously.
92, that's his year.
Yeah, he loves the year 1992. It's great for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to break this hand down as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
Buttons in seat number 2. Phil Ivey in the big blind here. Action is on. Mark Goodwin. Mark's not going to play. Mattisau has a reach for just calling the 600. Well, Mattisau's got King Queen offsuit here. It's not a bad hand to play. That, on the other hand, is a very nice hand to play. Yeah, I think the 2005 World Series Poker Player of the Year, Alan Cunningham, is going to play that. I tell you what, even I would play that hand. I don't think you have to be the 2005, but I'm not saying I played as well, but I would play it. Phil's in as well. Well, in a deep stack, no limit cash game, this is the kind of hand you want. Snap up a big hand. And that's a great first card for Phil. And now the question is, Alan Cunningham was a great player. Can he get away from pocket aces? There's $11,600 in the pot right now. And we have a big, big pot brewing. And I love the bet by Ivey here. He bets right into the razor. And Alan knows he'd do this with so many hands.
Okay, this is interesting that Phil Ivey leads here, and ultimately, this whole hand is going to be about a question we asked on the podcast of this hand: how to get value out of a set when you're playing against a good player like Alan Cunningham. Phil Ivey is choosing this approach. He's starting to donk, starting to tell a story already. Is this the right approach, Jonathan?
It's hard to know. There's a bunch of factors you have to keep in mind here. Number one, I sort of don't hate the idea of donking in that this is the kind of board that really might check through a lot when it's three-handed. Cunningham's often going to check here. So I like the donk by Phil Ivey in that way. I also like it if Ivey's going to be donk bluffing here a lot. I like donking with super strength here.
Good to have balance. It's always good to have balance.
Yes.
However, I think I might prefer a check overall. Reason number one, Alan Cunningham has aces here, right?
Well, yeah.
Let's give him any overpair, aces included. So that type of hand is going to bet anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're getting extra value by betting as Phil Ivey when we do that. Maybe we're trying to avoid a check back on the turn. Maybe that's part of what we're trying to do. But I think this might play better as a check because then we can decide to check raise. Cunningham's probably going to check back ace queen, ace king when it's a three-handed pot anyway. This is a very dry board where Ivey can't rep many bluffs unless it's just a random bluff or 7-8.
7-8's the one, right? I guess some gut shots too he could be repping, right?
I mean, kind of.
10-8, things like that. But that's about it. It's true. Now, maybe Ivey's also just going to donk top pair sometimes because this is the kind of board that's going to check through so often three ways. So that if that's part of his range, then it's nice to have something really strong too. But overall, it seems like just so often on this board in this way, when you bet as Phil Ivey, you're just going to get folds.
Right. I would really prefer it to be a really wet board, like a Jack 10, 8, 2 heart board, and we have a set of 10s and donk then, because then we have a lot more draws in our range. Our opponents have a lot more hands they can continue with. Our opponents have a lot more hands they can raise with. Cunningham cannot raise with anything except for hands that beat us, essentially, here, right? He's only going to raise with a set of 6s or a set of 9s. He's not going to raise with a pair of aces, obviously.
I mean, we see that. So
he never has 9-6 suited because he raised over Mattisau's limp.
Almost ever.
Yeah, so I don't think we get a lot of flop value by betting here.
it's hard to argue that. The one thing is that you do get to build a pot if it was going to check through, which it will do a lot of the time. Mattisau is almost always going to check to Cunningham.
Yeah.
And then Cunningham, when he doesn't have an overpair, I think is usually going to check
Yeah,
this
but he
back.
might just fold anyway if he has one of those hands. Why not give him a chance to catch up with those hands? That's
That's a
another
good point.
benefit of checking.
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
we can also check raise, which maybe is not right. Maybe check calling would be better because check raising looks really strong on this board. Just like donking looks really strong on
Yeah.
this board. But at least we can potentially capture more value from the overpairs. I think we're going about this wrong.
I mean, it's hard to know. And again, I think it comes back to the overarching strategy you have on boards like this from the small blindest Phil Ivey when you're three-handed, right? If you're going to donk this kind of a board a lot, then I think this is perfectly fine and needs to be in your range. But if you're not donking very often or you're only mostly donking strong, then this probably isn't going to work to get value over the long haul.
Pot is now $21,000 here. Phil Ivey and Alan Cunningham, they know each other extremely well. And Ivey has bet 15,000 right into the two red aces. And what do you do if you're Cunningham here? Alan has already shown that he's got an overpair to the board. That's what his call on the flop represents. And yet Phil still keeps one afire. Alan's got to know that it might be on him at the moment. Pot is now $51,000. And the river is certainly not an action killer. The 10 of spades falls. But now it's just a question of value betting. How much can you bet here? Can you bet half the pot? Can you bet 25,000? Can you bet more? We're about to see what one of the best players in the world would bet in this situation. He's done a great job of building himself a big pot. And this is the reason you play pocket deuces, so you can snap off these big hands. Phil Ivey's so deliberate with every move he makes.
What'd you bet? 35. That's exactly what I thought you were supposed to bet. Good play. That's what I like.
I think Gus saw the 35,000 coming before any of the others. He's on Phil's right. The question now, of course, is can Alan lay down the aces? Now the pot is 86,000. It's 35,000 to call. And at this point, is there any way that Ivey had, say, pocket queens, pocket kings? If he was betting a straight draw, well, he's laid it down. That is why he's the 2005 Player of the Year.
That is a great fold by Alan Cunningham. However, I think it's a necessary fold, and I think most good players are going to make this fold, which comes back to the question we asked at the beginning of analyzing the flop. How do you get value with a set from a good player? I don't know if Phil Ivey did it right, but it's hard to say. We can't kill him for his line, but we just got to figure out, is there a better line?
I mean, we know, looking at the hands, it's very likely if Phil checks the river, Alan Cunningham is often going to bet it,
yes.
Right? And so in that way, we know that this would be play better as a check on the river. However, I understand Phil doesn't want to let it go check on the river. If Alan somehow has ace-9, he's always checking it back. Most one-pair hands, Alan's going to check back, except the overpairs, and maybe even jacks he's going to check back sometimes.
I mean, of course he's going to check back jacks. What's the value of betting jacks?
I mean, if Ivey had 10-8 and was, that's it. Like, he's got to have the gut shot with a 10 in there. That's very unlikely.
But then what did Alan Cunningham go call, bet with? we're not beating many of those hands.
I agree. It's really hard to come up with anything at all, and this is part of the problem.
Yeah.
And this is part of the greater problem, which leads to, I think, a really big question. Ivey calls with deuces from the small blind, a 6x raise almost, and can't get enough value for it to be worth doing when he gets the dream situation. He flops a set on a dry board against aces and can't get paid enough for it to really be worth it.
Well, the board didn't necessarily cooperate with him.
That's
because
true.
Alan Cunningham has to be putting Ivey on a pure bluff to call on this river here. He has to have king, queen of spades that he went nuts with for basically no reason in order for Cunningham to decide to call here. Because Ivey is way too good to bet jacks on the river. He is never betting jacks because Cunningham is folding all worse hands. Maybe he'll fold queens, but he's also going to call with a lot of better hands. So I think Ivey's pretty much never betting jacks. So Cunningham knows Ivey doesn't have one of the 1-pip lower hands than aces. Ivey's got a bluff, or he's got a really, really strong value hand. And guess what? 7-8 got there, which is the only reasonable bluff in Ivey's range.
Yeah, that's the thing that really sucks or is maybe really good from Alan Cunningham's perspective is you really can't beat anything at all. When Ivey bets again, all value for sure is beating you now because Ivey's not betting ace-9.
No,
right?
No chance.
Even if he was somehow betting it before, the only 9 Ivey would ever bet on the river is 9-10 suited, which is now beating you.
And I don't know if he would ever bet that on the turn even.
I don't know if he would either, but let's just pretend he was still betting 9 on the turn just because. Fine, that's beating you too. But the real problem is Ivey's only betting here really with sets and 7-8.
Maybe 9-6 suited or something.
Maybe some other weird 2 pairs, but that is it, man. And so Alan Cunningham makes what looks amazing, but actually I think for a lot of very good players would be a pretty standard fold here.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty standard fold to me. And maybe Ivey can get more value by checking because Cunningham then might put Ivey on a 1-pair hand and decide to bet. Maybe Ivey should have checked on the flop in the first place and told a different story throughout the hand. Maybe that was a way to get more value. We don't like the way Ivey played it, but it's not like we really hate it. It's just really hard to get value in this spot.
This is the thing. Against a really good player who can figure out what's going on and read the board well and things like that, it's just hard to get paid.
Yeah.
And so playing really speculative hands is not always as good an idea as it might seem or as standard as it might seem. And this is just one of the problems with playing really good players.
Yeah, it really sucks. Maybe Ivey can bet like 9K on the river and do something to happen. I don't know.
Sounds awful.
It does sound awful. It's all bad. It sucks to play against good players. Just play against fish. That's the lesson.
I mean, I guess really the line has to be that Ivey has to check this river. Hope Cunningham bets with bluffs. I don't know what bluffs he can show up with here.
I
so
can't
there's
imagine.
Almost none. But hope he bets with his overpairs instead of checking them back quickly because 7-8 got there and he's just being careful, which I doubt he would be.
And then it's just a check call from Ivey, by the way. He can't check raise.
Right, because 10s got there and 7-8 got there, and Cunningham can't show up with both of those hands.
Man, it sucks. There's just no value to be had here.
It sucks. So is there a better way to get value than Phil Ivey chose to do? Should he not be donking the flop like Grant was saying? Should he be checking the river like we were saying? Or is there just nothing to be done when you're playing against a player this good, meaning Alan Cunningham, who can just make the fold with the aces there, like no problem.
So poopy.
Like, beep,
Yeah.
I'm out. Let us know in the comments what you think. We'll be looking for them and excited to see them.
Yeah, we like to hear what you guys have to think because we don't know what Ivey can really do here.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear
This is
some
tough.
ideas. We'd really like to hear some ideas. There are a lot of cash game hands that we have done, by the way, and some of them have decisions like this that are really tough. Some of them have slam dunk decisions and people playing horribly. A lot of money gets thrown around. It's a lot of fun. Check out all our cash game hands right up here.
Of course, we also talked about this hand in crazy detail on our podcast, The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. Spent like a good 45, 50 minutes getting into it, talking about what can Ivey do, and the greater strategic question of when you flop a set against a good player, how does one really get value, or just a strong hand? Anything else we want to say? Are we just done? All right, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.